The pregame show as I plug in my headphones. There we go. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Joe Spadoni got me for the next hour right here on 95.7 The Game. What are we going to talk about? Stuff. Things. Yeah, maybe some sports. Something happened last night at Chase Center? Ah, boy. Clay. I have never seen Steve Kerr fall to his knees in such despair. Maybe like a Steph Curry, like heat check 3, but even then he's like, oh, okay, it's Steph, okay. The sheer just defeat in Steve Kerr falling to his knees after Klay Thompson fouls with 39 seconds to go in a Warriors loss to the Los Angeles Clippers last night, 130 to 125. It was a 3-point game after getting a 3-pointer, and you do that. Russell Westbrook gets the free throws, and the game's basically over. They're up 5, 39 seconds to go, 130, 125. Just brutal. And you heard it on the broadcast. You heard it from our very own Tim Roy. You heard it everywhere you watched it. Clay, what are you doing? But you know what? Give credit to the Clippers. But that was one that the Warriors let slip away. You give up 44 points in the fourth quarter, you're going to lose. I'm sorry. As well as the defense has been playing during this streak, then streak, which has been snapped now, giving up 44 in the fourth quarter, it's unacceptable. And for a team that's trying to climb out of the play-in, losing a game like that hurts. Now you're on the back end of a back-to-back against a Jazz team who is also on the back end of a back-to-back. Jazz taking an L last night to the Los Angeles Lakers as Rui Hachimura dropped, career high 36 last night. Lakers 138, Jazz 122. Lakers are all wrapped up for the All-Star break. They take on the Warriors a week from today, first game back from the All-Star break at Chase Center. Lakers-Warriors, that's going to have some sizzle. That's going to have some spice. But Warriors got to worry about tonight ending it on a good note. You want to head in over 500. I think that would be a massive mental hurdle, going Clint here and Tomash, be a massive hurdle for them to clear. Just mentally. Being a 500 team at the All-Star break, for as bad as this season has gone at times, for as devastating at times it has been both physically and emotionally with this team and with this franchise, the passing of an assistant coach, Dejan Milojevic, Decky, and to be where they are at
at the All-Star break and somehow over 500, it's pretty remarkable. But they got to win tonight. They got to win tonight. But if you have thoughts on last night's games, Clippers 130, Warriors 125, 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or text the Comcast Business text line. You can also hit me up on Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Go ahead and search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe. We are streaming all day long right here on 95.7 The Game, leading you up to Warriors Live at 5 o'clock. Again, you're home for Golden State Warriors, 95.7 The Game. Tip-off at 6, and this game, again, will be in Salt Lake City. It's kind of a weird 1-2 step, right? You're in Utah Monday, go back home, and you're back in Utah today. It's just difficult road trip. And just, when I say trip, just one trip. But going to Salt Lake City, there's a reason why the Nuggets and the Jazz, teams like that, usually play well at home. They got the little altitude. They got a little bit of an advantage, especially back end of a back-to-back. 888-957-9570. Take your calls and text as it pertains to the Warriors. It's not a must-win game tonight, but it feels like I got to have it for the mentals. You don't want to go into the All-Star break a game under 500. You're 14-14 at home now. Not saying the season's in the balance, but you guys start looking at the standings. And the Jazz are right on your heels. They're 26-29. They're in the 11th seed. You lose this, though, they're making up ground. Game and a half back of the 10th spot. The Warriors, 2 games back of the Lakers for the 9. Then you got the Kings, then you got the Mavericks. And I know the goal, if you're the Lakers, if you're the Warriors, if you're the Kings, if you're the Mavericks, you're eyeing that 6th spot. Can we get there? Well, 5th and 6th, considering the Pelicans and Suns are both at 33 and 22. Can you get up there? There's a big jumble when you go to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. They're all separated by 3.5 games from the Lakers to the Suns. Can the Warriors be a part of that? Can they finally build some momentum out of the All-Star break? It starts tonight. So we can continue to take your calls and texts there. Good morning to all of you on the Comcast Business text line. 925. I'm so tired of Clay shooting us out of games. Pods and Steph were both hot from 3. Instead of feeding them, Clay goes 1 for 9. Ridiculous. That's Dublin Marge. It's frustrating. For sure, Dublin Marge. And I appreciate you chiming in both on the Comcast Business text line and on YouTube. Listen, the Klay Thompson frustrations are going to be there all season long, and it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. It just is what it is. He's going to have nights like this, a couple times out of the week, and then he might have a really good night. Then he might have another one. But he's going to be, how we were talking about Andrew Wiggins a lot, and Andrew Wiggins didn't have a great night last night either. Same amount of minutes as Klay, 4 of 10, 10 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals. Okay, not mad at the defense. But if Steph Curry has a game like that, 15 of 31, 9 of 19, 41 points, you feel like you should win the game. Especially if you're getting production from the Rook out of Santa Clara, Brandon Pajemski, 9 of 12, 25 points, 8 assists for the young rookie. You got to capitalize on games like that. And to have Clay go 4 of 14, 1 of 9 from beyond the arc, 12 points, and that foul, I cannot get the image out of my head of Steve Kerr falling to his knees. It's like that Yu-Gi-Oh meme. For those of you who don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh is, Google it. Just an elite card show and game from the early 2000s, late 90s. But he falls to his knees and should have been me. That's how I felt like watching Steve Kerr. Just distraught at that foul call. Now, were they going to win? Clippers were up 3, 39 seconds. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. They miss a shot, you get it back. You never know what happens. But to give them a 5-point lead with 39 seconds to go, it felt like you were playing with a lot of fire there, and they did, and they ended up losing the game 130-125. Good morning on the YouTube chat. Again, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. all you lovely people. I hope you all had a nice Valentine's Day. Hope you all had a lovely, lovely day. If you got the chocolates, if you got the flowers, if you got some, good for you guys. Sam's looking at me like, don't talk about that. Hey, it's 5:09 a.m., baby. All right? People are just waking up. People have been up for a long time. And people that didn't really get to celebrate Valentine's Day because they were sleeping throughout it, happy Valentine's Day to you. I hope you had a good day. Sabo. Y'all have something against Wiggins. No wonder you can't attract free agents. What are we doing? What do you mean you have something against? I don't know if that's in relation to me just, being hard on Wiggins. It's not even being hard on Wiggins. It's just, the fact of the matter is, the guy's inconsistent. And if we're going to have that same energy about Klay Thompson, his inconsistencies, we can say the same for Andrew Wiggins, both of whom have had good stretches. The Warriors just had a very good stretch on this winning streak. But that was a game they should have won, and they didn't. And I'm looking at Wiggins, and I'm looking at Klay Thompson, and I'm saying to myself, 22 combined points for those guys is unacceptable. Giving up 44 points in the fourth quarter is unacceptable. So that's why I'm looking at tonight's game as a potential massive swing. Going into the All-Star break, being a game over 500 versus being a game under 500, with the Lakers looming a week from now, it feels massive. Because you look at the schedule after that, and now it doesn't get harder, but there's some tough matchups sprinkled in there. So you got the Lakers. Then you have a back-to-back at home against the Hornets that Friday. Hornets stink, but it's a back-to-back nonetheless. Then you got the Nuggets. Then you got the Wizards. Jordan Poole revenge game in Washington. I'm kidding. Knicks, who have played well at times this year. Raptors, Celtics, Bucks, Bulls. So nothing are gimmies for this Warriors team is what I'm trying to say. And we've known that throughout this season. So capitalizing tonight is a must. The Jazz aren't playing very well. Watched them last night against the Lakers. They're not a good team. Now, again, what I just mentioned was you got to handle business, and you can't take any team lightly. The Warriors should win this game. Will they? Remains to be seen. On the YouTube chat, good morning, Mentality. Good morning, Nicole Diaz. So why do we only talk about the Warriors when they lose? Honest question. Well, Nicole, we had this thing called the Super Bowl this past Sunday, and I'm not trying to be snarky. I like you, Nicole. She follows me on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram as well. At Brosov Spadosov. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Spadoni_Joe. Love Nicole. But we've been talking about the Warriors. I talked about them yesterday. Talked about their winning streak. But this past week, and a lot of the Warriors' winning streak has been dominated by the 49ers. That just is what it is. Do we want to talk about the Warriors' little winning streak in February or the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl and losing a heartbreaker in overtime? Well, it's going to be that. And actually, I'm probably going to pivot to the Warriors, pivot back to the Niners right now, I should say, because something else happened. Kyle Shanahan on his conference call yesterday, talking to the media. Take a listen.
Sleeping on this for a few nights, and I'm trying to come up with a few tough decisions. But this morning, I relieved Steve Wilkes of his duties. Going to end up making a change here, defensive coordinator. Really tough decision because it says nothing about Steve as a man or as a football coach. I mean, he's exactly what we wanted as a man. He is a great football coach, but just where we're going, where we're at with our team, from a scheme standpoint and things like that, looking through it all throughout the year, through these last few days, felt pretty strongly that this was the decision that was best for our organization. Even though it was one I didn't want to make, it was something that once I realized that I think a different direction is what's best for our organization, and then it's something that I have to do. So I let him know this morning, and I know I wasn't able to let you guys know yesterday because I wasn't sure about it yesterday, but I am now.
Steve Wilkes, gone. Fired as defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. It felt like this was inevitable. You just heard from the players, heard from the coaching staff, Kyle Shanahan himself, throughout the season. Just, it wasn't a great fit. Now, is he the reason they lost the Super Bowl? Hell no. Been talking about it all week. That defense played their asses off. I'm not blaming them. And history will show that Steve Wilks was not the reason the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl. That's a fact. But can they improve? Can the defense improve? Yes, they can. In a big area of where this, matchup between Steve Wilks and the 49ers just didn't mesh, not only was he not a homegrown guy, like a Robert Saleh and like a D'Amico Ryans before him, who are both homegrown in the Kyle Shanahan system. They're tight with Kyle, linebacker guys. Steve Wilks from an entirely different system. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's very calculated. He's very cerebral. And he's a defensive backs guy. And they had to make it work. It was Kyle's system that Steve Wilks was now adopting and trying to put his own spin on it. And at times, it worked, and at times it didn't. And specifically, the linebackers, they feel like they didn't see eye to eye with Steve Wilks. The defensive line, Bosa, Chase Young, all those guys, didn't really seem to warm up to Steve Wilks as the season went along. So it just wasn't a good fit. Now, are you going to say it was a scapegoat that Shanahan had to fire someone? I do wonder, had they won the Super Bowl, would Steve Wilks still be a 49er? And I got to think you're keeping the guy that just won you a Super Bowl, right? As a defensive coordinator, right? You kind of have to at that point. But they didn't. So they make changes. And there's been a lot of changes on this 49ers coaching staff. A lot. Adam Schefter on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't care. I do hate in articles now that we do have to read on the app X, formerly Twitter in parentheses. But Adam Schefter, 49ers assistant coaching changes this week. Defensive coordinator, still Steve Wilks, relieved of duties. Assistant head coach / running back coach, Anthony Lynn, goes to Washington. The passing game coordinator, Clint Kubiak, goes to the Saints. He's their OC. Assistant offensive line coach, James Craig. Now the Raiders offensive line coach. Then the assistant defensive line coach, Darryl Tapp, also going to Washington. So them the breaks for as good as you are. Other teams that are rebuilding, that are trying to get to your level, they're going to poach. There's poachers all around the league after every single season. And they look at the best of the best of the best. That's the 49ers, it's the Chiefs. It was the Eagles last year, losing both Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen. And that seemed to have affected them immensely. Now, thankfully for the 49ers, the most important part of your team is never going anywhere. That's the offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. Although, judging by a lot of the callers yesterday on these airwaves, some of them would like to see a change at the head coach position. But that's not happening. Kyle's not going anywhere. And you'd be foolish to let him go right now. Is he the guy that could win you a Super Bowl? Remains to be seen. Can he get you there? Yes. He's gotten them there twice. And I love those odds. Twice in the last 4 years, he has gotten us to the chip, and we have had leads in the fourth quarter. Didn't go our way. Is what it is. Sucks. You lost to one of the greatest quarterbacks and greatest coaches and greatest tight ends in the history of the NFL. Speaking of which, that team celebrating a Super Bowl yesterday in Kansas City. Oh, God. Just heart goes out to all the citizens of Kansas City. Gunshots firing upon the crowd. One dead that we know of. Many children in the hospital. Just disgusting, disgusting. And unfortunately, all too normal here in our country. And, the first thing I saw, and I said to myself when I saw that, because it happened like right as the Steve Wilkes stuff was happening here at the station. So I was watching it on NFL Network and the Super Bowl parade coverage, all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden it cuts. I was like, that was interesting. I just saw the parade. Now it's like the highlights of the Super Bowl. Weird. But the Steve Wilkes stuff was happening at the same time. So we were all scrambling. There was a bunch of stuff happening. But then I turned on all the coverage. I go on my phone, see everything, just staying updated. And the first thing I said, I was like, wow, I'm shocked this hasn't happened before. Isn't that a horrible thing to say? But it's the truth. My first thing when I saw that there was a shooting taking place at a championship parade was, wow, I'm shocked this hasn't happened before. Which is a sad reality for many of us who have lived in this country our entire lives. If you've been here just the last decade, just whenever. It's just, it feels like it's never going to end. I'm not going to talk about the entire show, but to just go the entire show without bringing up the most important story in sports when it crosses over to real life just felt like the wrong thing to do, not bring it up. Got to talk about it. It's the only way you're ever going to get better. You'd think, as a country, how do we move forward from it? Well, we've gone down this rabbit hole. Feels like every other month. So we know how this ends, unfortunately. But be thinking about all the players, all the people, all the families affected, all the freaking children, man. It breaks my heart. It really does. 888-957-9570 as we do our best to pivot back to the 49ers, Chiefs, 49ers. If you're just joining us, if you've been under a rock, Steve Wilkes, defensive coordinator, gone, relieved of his duties, which is such a nicer thing to say than getting fired. Like, it's so funny when they do that. Yeah, he's been relieved of his duties. No, he's gotten fired. He got the pink slip. See ya. Night-night. Here's more from Shanahan on his conference call yesterday with the media, talking about the style of play just not meshing with Steve Wilkes and the 49ers.
That was the hardest part, and I knew that was a challenge. It was tough. It was real tough losing D'Amico. It was tough losing Solid the year before, but we had committed to not just the system, but the players that had been in the system, from our D-line, our linebackers. They had played in it for such a long time, so it was my goal to not have to change all of them, and bringing in Steve, who was unbelievable, and how loyal he was, and him trying to do it, but it just ended up not being the right fit, and it's like, it hurt for me to do this, but that's exactly why I had to.
Just wasn't the right fit. But the microscope's on Kyle Shanahan for this next hire. It is. I know the knee-jerk reaction, again, is to look at that performance in the Super Bowl and be like, why is he getting fired for that? Well, it's not just one game. It's never just one game. It was a culmination of things that I listed off earlier. The players not responding. The leaders of that defense not responding to him. The whole booth thing, coming in and out of the booth, which seemed dumb, but they really wanted him back on that field, apparently. So much so the head coach made him come down. The cover zero play against Minnesota, when the head coach, Kyle Shanahan, calls him out after the game. I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall all season long. Now, have they won it? Again, are we having this conversation? I don't know. But that's a hypothetical. That's just a hypothetical. 888-957-9570. The 49ers make a mistake letting go of Steve Wilkes? Or is this going to be a major positive for them going into next season? And are they going to go outside hire? Are they going to go inside hire? Well, here's what Shanahan had to say about that.
We'll do both. We've got some good coaches in here, and definitely going to look outside also. So there's a number of things I got to do for the interview process, but I had to get this. This wasn't an easy decision, so it's something that I had to really put a lot of time into. And have that conversation with Steve this morning, which now that's taken care of, and now I'll start working on the interview process and things like that, trying to find who's best for our group.
So they're going to go inside, outside. all that. Chris Kasurik, his name is always a big name around this time. Defensive line coach, gets credit for Nick Bosa. Chase Young started off fast but kind of fizzled out. Chris Kasurik, by the way, this past year, the defensive line as a whole, kind of a disappointment. Not going to lie. And Chris has been great throughout his tenure with the 49ers. But this past year, with the level of expectations, and I know Chase Young showed up in the Super Bowl, and I know Nick Bosa showed up in the Super Bowl. Outside of that, Eric Armstead had some plays. But the amount of depth that this team had, it felt like a massive squandered opportunity. And for the lack of effort that I saw from players in that NFC Championship game, that's on everyone. That's on Steve Wilkes. That's on Kasurik. That's on Kyle Shanahan. It's on the entire staff. Like, that cannot happen. But Chris Kasurik, could he be a candidate, Kyle?
I think it's always a possibility for him, but I know what Chris majors in. I know what he loves to do. His passion is D-line. He doesn't go outside of that a lot, but Chris is a hell of a coach, and he's capable of doing a lot.
He's a graduate of Ball So Hard University with an emphasis on defensive line. Chris Kasurik. We'll react to more of what Kyle Shanahan had to say yesterday. Again, if you're just joining us, Steve Wilkes fired as defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. The search now continues for a DC. And who do you want as defensive coordinator, 49er fans? 888-957-9570. That's a question we could get into. Plus, we can continue to take your calls and texts in regards to the Warriors. 130-125 loss last night to the Los Angeles Clippers. They're back in action tonight, taking on the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City. Coverage of that starts at 5 o'clock right here on 95.7 The Game, your home for Golden State Warriors. As we roll on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, 95.7 The Game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard this Air France radio announcement. Our very best 90th anniversary fares have just...
Thanks, Tim. Timmer. You still want to say that? Okay. You know who used to do the Timmer South Park reference on his highlights? Stuart Scott. R.I.P. God, he's so good. Speaking of Tim Roy, who you heard there on the rejoin, the great Tim Roy. Shout out to, we get her name. I want to, Jenny Kavnar, correct? Kavner? There's a Kavnar. I want to strive for excellence here, Sam. Sam's going to confirm. I want to get the name right. But she took over for Tim last night, who was on assignment. Hell of a job, Jenny. Welcome. She is now the play-by-play television voice of the Oakland Athletics, and she did spot starter for Tim Roy yesterday and the Warriors on 95.7 The Game. So shout out, Jenny. I'm going to go Kavner for now. I'm going to go Jenny Kavner. Sam, we'll get on it. It's all good.
Yeah, Jenny Kavnar.
Kavnar, got it. Okay, all right. Not caviar. Not caviar, but Kavnar. There we go. But elegance in both. You like that? See how I tied that all together? So shout out, Jenny. Clippers 130, Warriors 125. We can continue to take your calls and text on that. We're back in action tonight against the Jazz with a chance to go over 500 heading into the All-Star break. They're 26-26. Massive swing game potentially for them. You want to go into the All-Star break above 500. It's a massive mental hurdle. I'm telling you, it is. They've been playing better. Keep it going. All of a sudden you have a win streak and then you lose 2 in a row. You don't want that. What else you don't want, and this is going to dominate a lot of today's conversation, I'm sure, is having to fire one of your coordinators after the season. And that's what Kyle Shanahan did yesterday. Again, relieving Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, of his duties. This is a tough position to fill. The last 2 defensive coordinators for the 49ers prior to Steve Wilks are head coaches in the NFL. Robert Saleh with the Jets. DeMeco Ryans with the Texans. Jets have been a hot mess offensively, but their defense has been pretty good. DeMeco Ryans, first-year rookie head coach. Yeah, I'd say he's pretty good. Him and C.J. Stroud, that looks like it's going to be a pairing that's going to last potentially a very long time in Houston. They're hoping so. God, the AFC is so stacked. I'm just thinking about it again. That's why the Niners have a great chance to go back to the Super Bowl, because they're not in that conference. C.J. Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Oh, I didn't even talk about the 2-time MVP, Lamar Jackson. That's 5. Is Trevor Lawrence going to get better? If he does, it's another one. It's down here from Trevor. A little down on the Jags right now. It's not great. Justin Herbert, you think he's going to get better, right? Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, we know all about that here. That's 7. What's going to go on with the rest of them? What are the Broncos going to do? What are the Raiders going to do at quarterback? The Titans, like all these different teams. There's young talent up here. Who's going to get them? Patriots, are they going to get Jaden Daniels? Are they going to trade that pick? Who's going to trade up for it? Could it be the Broncos? Could it be the Raiders? Again, the AFC is loaded with quarterback talent. loaded. NFC, That's why what Brock Purdy did this past year was so damn special. It could be a massive swing for this team going forward. Now, he has to, I'm not going to say duplicate what he did last year because he was an MVP candidate. I'm not expecting him to do that. I'm expecting a really good season from him. And anything less than that, there's going to start being some question marks because that's how it goes for quarterbacks on a rookie contract. Because once that contract's up, you got to pay them. And that's when tough decisions have to be made elsewhere. This team is getting older. Every year, they don't get it done. It's another year older. Now, relatively speaking, they're still, not dinosaurs or anything like that, but more wear and tear on Kittle. More wear and tear on Fred Warner Jr. Fred Warner, sorry. I know, the juniors. More wear and tear, obviously, on Dre Greenlaw with a major injury under the belt now, which sucks. Freak injury that happened in the Super Bowl, just running onto the field, torn Achilles. Brutal. Now, you can say the flip side, Spadoni. Now they're more experienced. Some of these guys are more experienced. Jair Brown, more experience. Demo Lenore, Ambry Thomas. Jarvarius Ward had an all-pro season. That's true. But it's brutal when you lose a game like that because you know how hard it is to get back. And you know everyone is trying to poach your team and all of its best coordinators, all of its best players, everything. That's why what Kyle Shanahan has done is so damn impressive. And I know we're crushing him this week because of the loss in the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying you can't. He'll wear that. He's the head coach. He'll get all the praise when they win and all the blame when they lose. Just like the quarterback. Although I think Brock Purdy's skating by a little bit this week. Not saying he was awful. I'm saying he was pretty good. Good. Very good? I don't know. I've been hearing he was excellent. He was just stop. I saw what excellence was when push came to shove. That was Patrick Mahomes. That's excellence. That's greatness. I'm not here to bash him. I'm not bashing Brock Purdy. Let's just calm down a little bit. Could it have been a better game for Brock? I think so. Did he miss? Did he have a chance on those 2 third down calls at the end of regulation and at the end of overtime? The overtime one, I want to say no, but the McDuffie blitz felt like if he can do that one over, they had some action. This is what I was talking about. I got the NFL film sound on it. Let's just take a listen.
We get a first down, we knock a lot of time off this clock. Biggest play in the game right here.
Your best play that you have in your book right now. Because you don't want to give Mahomes the ball back.
All right. Hey, man, we got no sacks, obviously.
Hey, alert the pressure. We cannot take a sack.
Yeah, pressure. Got him. Give it to him.
Woo, that was a good move.
So there's a lot happening there. If you don't know the voices, there's Trent Williams. There was the official Bill Vinovich. Kyle Shanahan saying, you got Christian, Brock. Just didn't see him. Didn't get it to him. Had to eat it. And then check this out. So that was the third down play call at the end of regulation for the Niners, their last possession of regulation. End up settling for a field goal. Take a 19-16 lead. Here is the start of overtime. And here's some voices you're going to hear. Juszczyk, you're going to hear Patrick Mahomes, amongst others. Take a listen.
Go with the toss?
Yeah. Which way you want to kick it? They call it. They call it, right? Yeah, they call it coin flip. It's their coin flip, right?
We want the ball, Fred.
San Francisco, you are still the visitors. What is your call?
Tails again.
He called tails again. It is tails.
We'll receive.
You want the ball. Which way do you want to kick?
We're going to kick that way.
San Francisco will receive first in overtime. Good luck, gentlemen.
They want it. They want the ball. They wanted it. Hey, they want it. They wanted it, baby.
We want them to have the ball. They want it, they can have it.
Hey, even if we score a touchdown, they still get the ball. I didn't know that.
If we won the toss, we were going to kick off too. We got what we wanted.
That's a tough look from Juszczyk. Harvard's own Kyle Juszczyk. Probably way smarter than I'll ever be. I mean, the guy's a Harvard graduate. Although, don't sleep on my SF State diploma, please. Go Gators.
Got him walking onto the field and saying that at that time is just like...
Hey, at least it's confirmed that if they did score a touchdown, he did know he wasn't running out. They did know.
They did know, yeah, as they were walking on the field for that first drive.
Yes.
That's just... Seeing him say that as he's like literally stepping onto the field, that was just like...
It's a tough look.
Oh, that was so crushing. Like, come on, guys.
It's
like,
a tough look.
Professionals.
Thank you, Sam. No, that's a tough look, and it's a good point. Because for as much as we crushed Kyle Shanahan... of, the offense and getting away from the running game and all this sort of stuff. I understand the thought process of getting the ball first, and everyone's still crushing him for it. Their defense was so damn gassed. The loss of Dre Greenlaw, I still back up the decision. It didn't go well. They did not get the touchdown. You're giving it to Mahomes second. You can keep saying Spadoni, you're just flat out wrong. I understand why Kyle did it. I do. Would I have done that? Probably not. But I'm not crushing him for it. Now, not knowing the rules, if you're the players or some of the coaches, that's a problem. That's a problem. Now, Kyle said he told his coaches to review it before the game. So, we'll see. But the players not knowing, and all the Chiefs players knowing, and everyone in that organization, top to bottom, knowing it, it's tough. Wait till you hear what Travis Kelce had to say on his podcast about it, too, because it's even more, twisting the knife, if you will, if you're a Niners fan, when you hear what Travis Kelce had to say about it on his podcast with his brother, Jason Kelce, New Heights Pod. We're up against it, though. More of your calls, more of your texts. Kyle Shanahan, letting go of Steve Wilks. Who do you want the 49ers to go after as defensive coordinator? Plus, we can continue to take your calls and text about the Warriors lost to the Clippers. They're back in action tonight in Salt Lake City, taking on the Jazz before the All-Star break. It's a pregame show. Joe Spadoni, come on back. 95.7 The Game.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money.
Welcome back. Pregame show, Joe Spadoni, 95.7 The Game. Got me for one more segment before tossing it to Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky of the Morning Roast here in about 10 minutes or so. I'm sure they'll have an awful lot to talk about. Warriors lost to the Clippers last night. Well, benches clearing after the Plumlee foul on Pods. Ty Lue getting ejected. And you know what? Let's hear that call right here on 95.7 The Game. We can get back into the Niners here in a second. I know we're talking about Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, being let go from Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers yesterday. And who do you want as a potential replacement for Wilks? Take your calls and texts there. But we are the Warriors station. And that was a big loss for the Warriors. And here's one of the big moments of the game right here on 95.7 The Game.
So Clippers will bring the ball up. James Harden off to the left wing. He pulls up for three. It was contested. Got knocked right back into the hands of Harden. And they pass around. A missed jumper for Powell. More offensive boards and a finish. No good for Mason Plumlee. And there is going to be extracurricular activity. Benches clearing out here as Warriors players having a conversation with Clippers bench. Pajemski got knocked down hard by Plumlee, and Plumlee walked away with a puffed out chest. So all Warriors are back towards their bench except for one mouthpiece, and we all know who that is. Draymond Green, the spokesperson for the Golden State Warriors, he finally trickles back towards their bench, and the refs are going to have to sort this one out. Technical foul has been assessed.
Has been ejected from tonight's game.
And Ty Lue has been ejected with his second technical.
Jenny Kavnar right here on 95.7 The Game. Good job, Jenny, filling in for the great Tim Roy. Yeah, craziness happening. And I do like how she said the Warriors mouthpiece, and we all know who that is. It's great. I was like, Trace Jackson Davis. Am I right? TJD getting it done over there. Look at our rook. Draymond Green. Draymond Green. He's telling that line again. We all knew he was going to. It's just who he is. Something's going to happen in the regular season again, isn't it, with Draymond? Something, somehow, I almost feel like I got to lock it in. There's going to be some sort of controversial happenings with Draymond by the end of this regular season, and there's going to be some questions from the league about it. I'm locking it in. There you go. February 15th, 2024. Something's going to happen. The head coach, Steve Kerr, on the collapse being a one-off and not a relapse to earlier this season.
I think this is a one-off. I think, we played a really solid game, 34 assists and 9 turnovers, but the game got away from us defensively there in the fourth. And, I'd like to watch the tape and see how we can adjust better. And because they picked us apart in that high screen. James Harden was fantastic tonight, and we just couldn't corral him in that fourth quarter. And as I said, they took advantage in every way, offensive boards, getting to the rim. We fouled them. We fouled James on that 3-point shot, which was a big play. And so, like I said, we lost control of the game defensively, and I don't think we adjusted well enough either as a coaching staff.
Biggest stat line in the box score I'm looking at, the free throw discrepancy. 37 attempts for the Clippers. And you know who they're led, and you just heard from Steve Kerr. James Harden. So, of course, they're going to get to the line. But the Warriors were also fouling. They were contributing to it. A lot of reaching, especially in that fourth quarter. Again, 44 points. That's just, when you had them, you had this team dead to rights, and you give up 44 in the fourth. God, it's frustrating. You want to end the season on a high note. This regular season before the All-Star break. You want to end it on a high note. being over 500. That's why tonight's matchup, not a must-win. Feels like a gotta-have it, though. Feels like a gotta-have it for the mentals. Coverage of that starting at 5 o'clock again. Warriors Live, 95-7 the game. But 37 free throw attempts for the Clippers compared to 18 for the Dubs. It's just not going to get it done. A lot of reaching, a lot of hacking. Can't do that. Here's more from Kerr talking about the defense getting picked apart.
Yeah, they picked us apart in the pick and roll, and we didn't adjust to it well enough. They got the ball into the pocket. Norm Powell got several threes, out of that, the pocket pass. And then we fouled them. I think they shot 15 free throws in the fourth quarter, 37 for the game. So thought we had a really good first three quarters defensively. For the most part, the third quarter was better. It was okay. The last couple minutes of the third, it felt like they got loose a little bit, and then they just dominated the fourth.
And finally, from the head coach, that Klay Thompson foul we talked about throughout the show. With 39 seconds left, Klay Thompson fouling Westbrook on the inbounds. There was a 3-point game with 39 seconds to go. Turns it into a 5-point game. Felt like night at that. Your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, we didn't want to. We're down 3 with 38 seconds. So it's an obvious defend and just play it out and get a rebound, and then it's a 1-possession game.
Can't do that. Can't do it. So the Warriors 26-26 heading into tonight's matchup against the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City. Steph Curry, your thoughts on the home record of 14-14 in the first half?
If I'm not mistaken, we're probably like 500 at home. 14. 14. So we're very average. Very average doesn't get it done in this league, so you gotta, we need to make a run, hopefully get bounced back tomorrow, and then, after the All-Star break, hit a stride that you win every game here and steal some on the road. That's the formula. But we've been very average so far, so got to regain that home court fear that we've been accustomed to in the past.
It's a good point, because last season they dominated at home. It was just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde throughout that season last year. The road Warriors were bad. They were, dare I say, awful last year. Not even dare I say. They sucked. This year, they're very average at home. And you heard it from Steph Curry there. Yeah, it's great, getting some on the road and getting some, stealing some games here and there, but you have got to be winning at home. You cannot expect the Pajemski performances on the road like you had yesterday. You cannot expect, the role players to have better games on the road, whether that's in Los Angeles, where they still got to play some more, whether that's, against Phoenix, what have you. You cannot be an average home team for the rest of this season. Just can't do it. Can't do it. 888-957-9570. I promise when you get to the sound, last couple minutes here, mentioned the coin toss, heard around the world for the 49ers. Niners get the ball. They received it in overtime. Players didn't know the rules. They go down there, get the field goal, had an opportunity to score a touchdown on the 9-yard line, didn't get it done, give the ball to Patrick Mahomes. But we played the NFL film sound last segment, and I'm sure Bonte and Shasky will get into it on the other side as well. But here's Travis Kelce on his podcast, New Heights Pod, with his brother Jason, talking about the Niners receiving the ball in overtime.
You win the coin toss. That's what you get. You get the opportunity to have the advantage, and they handed it right over to us.
Yeah, well,
not trying to harp on the guy, but it was a huge, like when they said we want to receive, and the ref looked at Fred and he said, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
You sure you want to receive? And he said, yeah, I want to receive. I want the ball.
I was texting.
Just like, I jumped out of my seat and said, hey, here we go. Let's go, boys. Perfect. They want to receive. We get second possession. We know exactly what they want. Defense, hold them. Just hold them to 3. I don't just hold them to 3. We're going to go down here and win this thing, baby.
Freaking crazy. Really was.
They're laughing. They're laughing at the 49ers. Ugh. Shanahan, 49ers, John Lynch, Jed York, they're going to have to wear this one for a very long time. Maybe forever. That's just going to be one of those games where you just say, What if? Well, what if you listen to the Morning Roast next with Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky? How about that? On 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7